Listen, the only time I go live on Sunday is if we're doing a post game. I don't know if I've ever gone live on a Sunday other than that, but the 49ers don't play today. Got to watch football without the stress of the 49ers losing or winning, however you may see that. And so I figured, why not? Between games, let's have an impromptu open mic where you guys can sound off, get your takes off, talk about whatever you want. But there is one rule tonight. One rule. You have to say something positive about the 49ers. This is an optimistic outlook show. I'm not saying you can't go a whole different direction once you start, but you have to give a positive outlook. So we're going to play the intro, then we're going to come back. We're going to take the first call. The link is pinned at the top of the chat. If you want to call in, always do it right away. Do it early. Get your take off. Let's go. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And like I said, it is an impromptu open mic night, which means your turn to sound off before we play this game tomorrow night. And you got to give me something positive before you go into whatever it is that you want to talk about. And this is not what I'm talking about. Chris Hansen, Mr. Dateline NBC guy. If we lose, the positive thing is Kyle will be gone soon. That's not what I'm talking about. Let's be clear. All right. That is not positive. So thank you to everybody that is in the chat so far. Let's get to our first caller, Mr. Korean 49er. What's up, bro? How are you?
I'm good, Jesse. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Hey, first positive thing is StreamYard actually is letting me hear you. You know how it's always 50-50 with your calls for whatever reason. So there we go.
Just watch the Packers get that victory against New England, last second field goal in overtime. So
yeah,
is what it is.
Yeah, that was one of those games where you're obviously rooting for New England, right? The NFC is kind of wide open right now. The Packers lose. That's huge for the 49ers. But either way, different division, same conference. I think the 49ers are going to be all right either way.
I'll start off with the positive. I still think the 49ers still have a chance to make the playoffs and even more. We'll see what happens. I'm not writing the season off yet.
Yeah, I think so too. I really do think that 9-8 in the NFC gets you in. I do believe that. The more and more I watch the NFC, the less impressed that I am. And once you're in, anything can happen. Now, Philly is the only team that I said preseason that gave me a little bit of worry because I feel like up the middle, they're strong. They can stop the running game. But outside of that, I mean, I don't look at these teams in fear. Even if the 49ers sneak in at 9-8, they can make some noise.
Yep, I think they have the chance. You have a good defense that's always going to give you a chance, at the very least, as long as they play up to their level. But I say this about the Rams game. If the 49ers play offense like they did against Denver, against the Rams, they're not going to win. Especially if you're handing the other team points along the way.
No, you're right about that. You cannot. There's a lot of things that went wrong in that game, right? For as good as the defense is offensively, I think that's the biggest concern right now. Was that a one-off? Is that what we can expect? Trent Williams is out. How much does that add on to the issues that they're having offensively? Don't have your most explosive running back. So there certainly is some reasons to be concerned. But for whatever reason, the Rams are a get-right game for the 49ers, or have been for a long time in the regular season. We'll see now that they've lost to them in the postseason if that changes at all. But early on, I mean, we've got to feel good about matching up with the Rams. It always seems to be them when the 49ers need to get it right. So,
yep. My other thing is I'm kind of tired of this Jimmy clique in the locker room with like Kittle and McGlinchey and Juszczyk and everyone just dapping Jimmy up. I'm like, maybe I'm mistaken, but I always see the mistakes. I understand that They always find a way to win with him as quarterback, the starting quarterback. But how many times can you accept him making a rookie mistake as a ninth year vet, or not knowing that when George Kittle is in the end zone, you have a short defender on him. Just throw it up and just make it for him or nobody. You know, or read the game where you're trying to get open receivers and he's missing
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, here's the thing is it's interesting because I feel like we should be able to live with Jimmy's mistakes more than ever because one, there's not a choice, right? Unlike last year, Jimmy's not holding back the development of Trey Lance, right? Number two, he's a backup, and number three, he's a hell of a lot cheaper than what he was last year. You know what I mean? So I would say for those reasons, we have to be able to live with it more, but that doesn't mean that we absolve him of all blame, right? If he's just not playing good, which last week was one of the worst games I've seen Jimmy play. If he's not playing good, he's got to take some blame for that. And, I would say that one thing I didn't like is that Kyle took blame for the safety, which is fine. Maybe somehow that was on him. But Jimmy's follow-up was, well, I like that he was a man enough to take blame there. I'll do the same. I always take blame when it's my fault. And it's like, bro, I've never once heard you come into a press conference and say me. It's always we or us. So that one was a little bit weird for me.
Exactly. I just kind of feel weird about seeing Jimmy just up there smiling, just being the good old boy and having a nice old time when you don't have too many chances to win games in a season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and here's the thing. There certainly is a click in the locker room and we don't know the players for sure. I mean, I've got a hunch that you're right in the players that you mentioned, but I also don't think it's enough to where it has to tear apart the locker room. I just think that Shanahan had to understand that when you decide to bring back Jimmy, there's going to be a natural split. It doesn't mean it has to tear the locker room apart, but people are going to choose sides. And it's not a surprise that people are going to choose the side of the veteran who has gone with you to a Super Bowl. Like that's natural for a lot of people. So, that's we can be upset at the players, but that's one of those things that again I put on Shanahan. I just do.
That goes back to one of my first things. You and I have talked before that the first mistake of Kyle and John Lynch is never getting their starting quarterback from the start and then going
Mm.
from there. I mean, I don't know any rebuild of a football team that one of the first things you don't do is establish or find a starting quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because offensively, we know quarterback is the most position or most important position in football, right? But then Shanahan also talks about how important the center position is for him. And they haven't established either of those long term. Now, we hope that Trey can be the guy. And watching some of these other quarterbacks that were drafted last year, I'm really not. It's funny because at first I was really pissed that we lost another year of development with Trey. Not the best thing in the world, but watching some of these other quarterbacks play, I'm like, is he really that far behind? Because none of these guys right now look good. Even Lawrence, who did look good in a rain game, had 5 turnovers today. Like, you know what I mean? None of these guys look great right now. They just don't.
This is true, and yeah, it is a tough thing to try and find a start. It is tough to find a starting quarterback, but you got to keep taking keep investing picks or even finding them in undrafted free agency. And one last thing, thoughts and prayers for the people in Southwest Florida from that
Yeah.
hurricane. That
Yeah.
looks really bad. It looks like I don't think it's as bad as Andrew was in the '90s, but it's pretty bad.
No, I agree with you, man. It's weird because Tuesday I had 2 shows, right? So first show's at 8:30 Eastern, last show ends at 10:30 Eastern. So as I'm going live at 8:30, I check the track of the hurricane and it's headed right to Tampa. I'm like, here we go, right? Got everything ready, sandbags, I've got perishables, generator. I mean, as ready as we can be. By the time I finished the second show at 10:30, I checked the path again and it shifted essentially 3-4 hours south of us. I'm like, so the part of you is like, oh, thank God, right? But then the other part is, oh gosh, other people have got to deal with this and they're in as much trouble as we would have been. So it's kind of a weird feeling, right? It's like a celebration, but then also oh shoot, I feel bad for those people. Now what can I do to help? So you're right, man. It's a crazy, crazy thing. In fact, I think for the rest of the week, thank you. You gave me a good idea. I'm gonna pin a link for people to donate to the Hurricane Relief Fund. If anybody decides they want to, I'll pin that to the top of my chat for the rest of the week. I think that's the least that I can do. So that's a good call by you.
Yep. I don't know how the game's going to go tomorrow, but I feel if the offense actually clicks and the defense plays up to their level, I believe they could get a victory. I believe a victory is in order.
Yeah, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. So before I get to Ken next, what is your official prediction?
23-20.
Okay. 23-20 Niners?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, listen, I love it. That's a true fan right there, but I know you don't feel good about it. I feel it. I definitely do.
Yep.
All right, brother. You have a good one, man. We're gonna do a post-game show, so I'm sure you'll be tapping in there. I appreciate you, man.
All right. Thank you, Jesse.
All right, later. Oh man, you could just see the anguish in his face. So who's gonna win? 23-20. 49ers? Yes. You gotta love it. All right, Ken, what's up, man? How you doing?
Not too bad, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good. I haven't seen you on a call-in show in a long time. Maybe you've been calling into Grants at all or no?
No, it's work. I'm doing like 13-hour days, so it's long hauls. I usually catch a lot of the shows like after they've been streamed, right? When I'm driving home from work and stuff. So, but it's this is the first time calling your show. It's nice. One thing that keeps getting missed, and everybody talks about Jimmy and his turnovers and everything else. Time of possession. So one thing, Jimmy manages the game really well, and I was worried about this with the kid, and it'll come with time. But the impact of the time of possession when the offense is on the field, right? So the biggest impact is, I know you watch MMA, where you see the guys that the champions who are used to fighting in the 5-round fights, and then they get into the final 4th and 5th round, and you see the guy who's never fought in a 5-round fight, and he's gassed.
Yes, happens a lot. Yep.
Huge. So when we did our Super Bowl run, right, we had a team that the offense was super heavy run and would chew up boatloads of time on the clock. And you'd see that defense, the opposing defense, on the sidelines. And all of them are breathing, sucking in oxygen and everything else. And the whole term, I'm going to take them to the deep end of the pool and I'm going to drown them.
Yep.
Right? So that's where a lot of Jimmy's success is I'm going to chew up the clock. There's going to be Grant coined the term Jimmy Gimmies, where it's 3-4 yards of play and we just keep moving the ball down the field. And yeah, it's not flashy as a 70-yard touchdown, but when you win the time of possession, there's a pretty good chance you're going to win the game. Why? Because the opposing defense is completely exhausted, right? And it's much easier to run downhill that way. And when Jimmy has his the fourth quarter heroics that we've seen in the past, right? It's easier to do that when the cornerbacks have been on the field, seems like for almost the whole game, right? Those defensive linemen, they're having to switch them in and out, in and out, in and out. And then the confusion it causes because they don't get all the players in that they want. Like, that's the positive that we need to look at. And that's really been the bread and butter that we've had against the Rams. Because as big as those guys are, right, you keep a 6'4", 6'5", 330-pound man on the field for that amount of time, he's going to be tired. And it's much easier pushing than it is pulling, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Right? No, I'm with you. I think that I loved your MMA analogy because you're right. You see it a lot. You get these super talented guys. They get into their first 5-round fight, whether it's a main event, title, whatever. Yeah. And after 3 rounds, you're right. They just don't know how to pace themselves. And that can be used as a weapon. You know, a lot of fighters win fights by just outpacing their opponent and never stopping and being able to go. Connor's a great example of the opposite of that,
Exactly.
where,
Yeah.
man, he comes out on fire. And if you can weather that storm, dude, you're good, because you get in the middle of round 2, round 3, whatever, most likely he's gassed and you're going to be able to take over. It's a Nate Diaz type situation. I love it. I love the analogy.
Or like GSP, because GSP, his pace that he would set would just run over guys because they wouldn't be able to keep up with that pace, right?
Yeah.
And if we can do that with our offense, those slow, long, like 9-10 minute drives that Jimmy can do, right? I think he's just rusty, right? Like no OTAs, no training camp, no anything else. And yeah, he's going to have hiccups, right? It pros and cons, right? Like there's definitely an upside to this. And looking at it right now, like watching Trey Lance and everything else, yeah, it's great. Yeah, Randy Couture as well. He was another one. Did that to Tim Sylvia, which was beautiful. But it gives the chance the kid to actually see what it takes, because that's like Tom Brady's the master at it, right? How many Super Bowls has Aaron Rodgers won? One, right? Yeah. Because he'd have those big, quick drives to go down the field in 2 minutes. Well, their defense is still trying to gain oxygen from the last defensive stand they had, right? Those are all important things that everybody really needs to keep in mind, where the time of possession battle is monstrous.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And, I think another big key that was overlooked last week was third downs. And that is also one area where Kyle has done a good job throughout his career. I mean, it's not just with Jimmy, although, Jimmy contributes to that, but even with guys like Mullins and Beathard, really, really good at converting on third down. Trey was starting to get there a little bit as well.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that is a Shanahan thing. So the biggest thing for them is staying ahead of the chains, right? Giving third and short situations for a guy like Jimmy, letting him go out and execute on third down and keeping those drives going. And last week, they just could not stay on the field. They got to a third down, they were out of there. And that is the biggest key, because if you can't convert on third down, you can't keep drives going. You can't run the ball because you don't have as many chances. And then here you are, you're losing a game that you absolutely should have won. I mean, to be frank.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, right? Here's a question for you. Yeah. If we finish, say, 6-10, does Kyle Shanahan get another shot?
I believe so. I do, because here's the way that I see it. As long as he doesn't completely lose this team, he still can prove something to, I believe, the fan base, or at least me. I'm a big leadership guy. And if this season goes south and he's able to keep it together, that shows me almost more than if they have a winning season. It's easy to keep it together when you're winning, but when you're losing and you're expected to win, that's, you can show a lot of leadership there. So for me, if he can show that leadership, plus, let's be real, they spent a lot on Trey Lance, and Shanahan is the only coach in the league that is invested in Trey Lance and has to have Trey Lance be good in order for him to continue being a coach with San Francisco. You bring in somebody new, they don't have any ties to Trey Lance. You basically can kiss the Trey Lance project goodbye potentially, because most coaches are going to be like, I want my guy. Trey's not my guy. I want my guy. So
no, I agree with you 100%. I think he'll get another shot, but I don't think he's really deserving of it, right?
Sure.
The reason somebody put out a stat that his win percentage in his first 6 seasons is the same as Rex Ryan, right? I don't know how true it is. I didn't do the paperwork on it, but if that's the case, Rex Ryan was fired in his 6th year. Right? We've had a couple of good years. We've had a couple of bad years. There's a lot of inconsistency where if you want to coin the guy a genius, there has to be more consistent play, right? Like you look at the guys that are at the top of the food chain when it comes to head coaches, like Bill Belichick, Sean Payton, right? Those guys, like consistently year after year, are the exact same way. Right, like every year they're going to put up the same numbers, and they're always in title contention. Right, it's not a carousel that's going on. So until Kyle shows consistency, like you look at that game with the Packers, right? Bill Belichick was down to his third string quarterback, and he's a rookie, and took Aaron Rodgers right into overtime.
On the road, yeah.
On the road. That's what a good head coach does, right? But Kyle's shown a lot of inconsistencies, right? In his choice of players, is how they build the team, with especially the problems with the offensive line, and his play calling. Like there's been a bunch of plays over his career as our head coach where I'm like, what are you doing? Like so many like bad decision making. It's almost like he needs like a shot caller ahead of him to go, hang on a second, I don't think that's a good idea, right? Who knows? We'll see what happens, I guess, is probably the best way.
Yeah, listen, I mean, Kyle's certainly not perfect, and I've had my frustrations with Kyle 100%. I know where you're coming from. I think it's funny because I feel like the people that really take up for Kyle on a regular basis they always look at him as basically he's the offensive coordinator and does nothing else on this team. Which, if he's the offensive coordinator, I mean, yes, 100%, you never fire Kyle, right? But as the head coach, there are other things that are more important. But the flip side of that is, I think a lot of times when we crush Kyle, we do forget he's the head coach and he's done other things well, right? Maybe they haven't drafted the best sometimes, but his player development is top notch. His coaching development, I believe, is top notch. Sure, yes. I mean, there's certainly some weird decisions that he makes throughout a game. A lot of things you can question from a play calling standpoint, especially as things get tight and they're up 10 for whatever reason. But, there are a lot of things that we can point to that are good. I certainly don't think he's a top 5 coach. I think he's probably borderline top 10, top 12 though. And if that's the case, I don't mind getting rid of him. You just have to have a better solution. And I think you have to give him one full year with Trey. Now, if Trey gets injured next year or something like that happens, or they just don't see any growth in Trey, maybe I'll listen to it.
Yeah. The only thing you said about coaching, I don't know. I don't think his coaching up is quite there. There have been a couple of examples like him screaming at Trey Lance and Jimmy on the side. Like we've seen it, right? I work in an industry that is can be very confrontational sometimes, right? Like I'm in the oil and gas industry, right? So a lot of us don't have the warm and fuzzy edges, as some people would think, right? But I look after quite a few guys on site, right? I'm a supervisor. That means I'm in a leadership role. Now, if I come out and I yell at my guys like that, you're going to lose the guys very, very quickly, right? Like that's not how you handle it. I know that if I get yelled at work, right, there's a pretty good chance that I'm not really going to listen to the guy all that well. Like those are conversations. If he's that upset, that's a conversation that should be done behind closed doors, right? Away from national media for everybody to see. Like those conflicts should not happen, right? Like those are conversations that have to happen away from the field, right? Because all that does is like look at what happened this week with Jimmy, where I don't do lip reading and everything else, right? Stuff like that should never, ever, ever happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, as a leader, I always have a rule that I live by, and that's praise in public and then coach in private, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes it's a little bit opposite with Kyle Shanahan and the way that he goes about some of the leadership things. So, like I said, he's certainly not perfect, and I'm big. I'm in a leadership role in my business as well. I'm really, really big into leadership. I'm really big into how psychology plays into things, and that's kind of where I have a gripe with Kyle Shanahan on some of the things. I did see some improvements last year, but then I feel like he's taken a step back this year. So who knows? But Ken, thank you so much for the call, brother. I got to get on to the next one. I appreciate you. Call in anytime, man. If you can do it. I know you work.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It was good calling in. Good talk with you. You take care.
All right, brother. Have a good one. All right, Melissa, you want to be on camera or no? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs up. Okay. What's up?
Hey.
How you doing?
It's a little weird being on camera on your show.
I know. You know what? I normally don't do the camera thing, but then it's like everybody that's called in so far are people that I know and trust, so I'm not too
Yeah.
worried about it. But if I get somebody
Well,
that I don't necessarily know, I'll pull them off. Just
okay.
I gotta be
I'm
safe.
not
You
gonna
know how that
embarrass
goes.
you, and I purposely turn off the lights so there's nothing embarrassing in the background. So,
All right, perfect.
how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I don't know if you were here in the beginning, Melissa,
No, I
but
missed it because.
I have one rule to tonight. You
Okay.
have to say something positive about the 49ers, and then you can grill them and do whatever you want. But one thing positive.
Okay, my positive then is I may. I'm saying may because I really don't want to jinx it. I may get to see Charlie Warner for real this week.
Oh,
So that's my
okay.
positive.
All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. There you go. I
I
like it.
really desperately wanting to see Charlie Warner get a big role on this offense this week. So I'm hoping between him and Shawan Jennings, I get to see my guys kind of shine this week with all the injuries.
I like it. Okay. All right. How are you feeling about this game? Who do you think's going to win? And immediately not positive. I like it.
I said 27-24 and I got ripped for it. And I'm going with the Rams solely because it's been a health issue for me, getting all worked up and then getting my hopes up. So I'm going to go Rams just because I don't want to get my hopes up. Okay, but that does not mean I'm not a Niner fan. I'm wearing my Niner colors. I'm wearing my Fanatic shirt that I got last year for Christmas. So it's just, I can't do it anymore, you know?
I feel it. Here's
I don't trust the quarterback. I don't trust this whole not knowing what the hell is going on in offense thing. Like some weeks it's Shanahan's fault. Sometimes it's supposed to be the position coach's fault. Like I don't know who's making the decisions of why isn't Mason in? Why isn't Mason getting another shot? I don't understand why Charlie Warner is not being used. I don't understand why Juwan Jennings isn't getting a bigger role. I never know what's going on with the offense anymore. And it's not like the past where it was Crabtree and then we didn't really know who the hell these other wide receivers were. You know, like we have weapons now, and some weeks it's supposedly on Kyle's fault. Sometimes it's on the position coach's fault. Like we don't really know what's going on with offense. So I'm optimistic, but I'm being cautious.
Realistic. Yeah, cautiously optimistic. I like it. And that's fair. Tread lightly. Here's the thing. You don't have to be, you're not a non-Niner fan if you don't think that they're going to win every game, right? Like sometimes you just, hey, I think this is a scheduled loss.
But like even my score prediction, like I went on to another show, right? And I got a call in because my phone wasn't working. So they let me video call in. And they're like, well, I don't see our defense giving up 24 or 27 points or something. Like, we don't see them going that far. It's like, but it's not just the defense that plays the game. Like, we had, 2 straight years where we were all clenching up our fists and, hoping and praying. And, we didn't turn it over on special teams because we kept turning the ball over on special teams, whether it was punch out or they run for it and then they drop the ball or, the pick sixes with Jimmy. For years, you had points put on by other parts of the team besides the defense. So it's saying 27-24, it's not always on the defense, you know? And they can only hold it up so long. If it's 40 minutes where the opponent has the ball, do you really expect 40 minutes of perfection from your defense? You can't really keep asking them to be beyond elite, you know?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, only a few defenses in history can do such a thing, right? And I do think this is one of the better defenses the 49ers have had, especially since 94. They had some really good defenses, right?
Yeah.
With Harbaugh. I'm not saying that they didn't, but in an era like this where offense is at a
complementary throughout.
Yes, exactly. But with an offensive league, it's very different because no matter how good your defense is, at some point the rules are tailored for the offense to win. It just is. And you can only hold for so long. And in my opinion, you look at last week, they gave up 11 points, right? The defense gave up 11 points. Reality is I thought they gave up 6
points.
Yeah, because I thought the field goal.
it's the special teams that scores the field goal, so that's not really on them. The offense, you can't blame them for the safety.
No.
And they missed the extra point on the touchdown anyway. So technically, out of the 11 points that you lost, you only give up 6 points.
Well, and I thought for the field goal, Shanahan, they were in field goal range. Like Shanahan there was a penalty. Shanahan could have taken the penalty, relied on his defense to keep them out of field goal range and give them a second shot at it. So, that's 3. Then you got the safety. That's 5 right there. So, and then the week before they gave up 7, but that was a blocked field goal, right? So that's where the 7 came from there. So yeah, the defense has done a really good job. I mean, they had a couple lapses penalty wise in the first game, but even then they were holding it down. So, the defense is going to do its thing. Yeah, of course.
Because you're one of those really even when I told you on the get playback thing, you were so sane when Trey went down, and I cannot thank you enough because I'm at a market like you are, but it's harder for me to kind of watch stuff because I don't have NFL Plus or any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I have to watch you guys, or I have to watch through Doofu or some other kind of convoluted way. But I've been dying to ask you this. What do you think of last week when they put in Diamador Lennox? A lot of people lost their shit when he finally got in, and they're like, "What? Where's Womack? Why isn't Womack starting?" They all lost their bloody minds, and I've been dying to ask you what your thoughts are, because I don't think Diamador has done anything to have so much hatred and to have so much doubters, and he didn't really the reason why he didn't play last year was because he had off the field stuff that I don't want to get into or speculate about.
Yeah.
But he's really done nothing to get the ire of the fans. He didn't cost Bosa a sack last year like Ambry Thomas did. He didn't cost us an interception because he had a holding call. I don't get why people are having an issue with someone trying to get some playing time.
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think Womack has played really good, at least to the average eye, right? You look at Womack, and he made a lot of plays in the preseason. Even the game that he didn't start last week, he still had his thumbprint on that game for the special teams play, right? Where he knocked it out of the
But he even came in later on as a defensive player.
Right, for sure. They still used him in dime situations. But I think with Lenore is an inside corner to me. He's a nickel corner. He's not an outside corner. And last year he was thrown in crappy situations, outside corner, all those other things. But he is a nickel corner. I think Lenore being in year 2 is probably better in the run game. And Kyle Shanahan talked a little bit about this today. He had an interview with Greg Papa, and he was just talking about how the nickel corner has to be ready to play sound run defense and get in their run fits, regardless of what the offensive personnel is doing. And that to me was kind of the tipper that, maybe Womack wasn't doing those things the way that maybe a Lenore can. And that's why they decided to go with Lenore last week. And I assume would do the same thing this week. So I don't think anybody should be hating on him. I think people just are really excited about Womack, and he does seem to be a playmaker. And Lenore is more of I'm going to do my job, but I'm not going to get a lot of interceptions type of player. So from a pass game standpoint, I understand what they're saying, but maybe the run fits is why Womack is not in, and Lenore probably is.
Yeah, because Lenore to me kind of has that shark mentality where they're not going to make the big splashy plays. They might have one every 10 games or so.
Right.
But they're good at what they do, and they're really good at cleaning up after the linebackers. So if let's say they get past the defensive line, they get past the linebackers, there's that one really solid play that's going to have your back before it hits the safeties. So, and my other real question I wanted to call in about is your thoughts on Gibson and Hufanga, because I really love these guys together, and I really don't want to see it broken up. But I know Ward is coming back, so.
Yeah, well, I think as good as Gibson and Hufanga have been, I think Ward is still probably the best safety on this team, which is, crazy to think because those guys have been playing really well. Also, I'll shed a little bit of light on this. The 49ers do like to play 3 safeties a lot. So I think Gibson will still get a lot of playing time. Hufanga is going to start. Ward will start. And then Gibson will be that third guy. But I do think he'll be on the field a lot as well. So I do think that this is great to see because really we weren't sure about the 49ers. We knew that Ward was going to start if he was healthy. We knew Hufanga was. We didn't know how good Hufanga would be. He's been better than good at this point. And now we have that third safety so they can do a lot of what they did last year and really allow Hufanga to just do what he does best. And that's just play with his hair on fire, be around the line of scrimmage and light people up. So I love it. I love that Jimmy's coming back and then they're going to have that trio on the field together.
Do you think Gibson's going to be here in the long term and Jimmy Ward is going to move on this next offseason? Because I know there's a lot of one-year deals that also kind of have me wondering what the hell is our defense going to be next year.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. There's a lot of question marks. I would say if one was coming back, it would be Ward. I think they're both gone. I do.
See,
I
like,
think that
I don't know if it's going to be Ward. Is it going to be like, I mean, mostly like you got the Jordan Willis's, you got the Aziz Shayirs, you have the Kevin Givenses, you have like a lot of these like key guys that whether they've been like main guys or they've been like good depth guys or they've been like rotation guys. They're all up this offseason. So as much as I love our defense, I want to capitalize on what they're doing, but I don't trust our quarterback too. And then there's all the people who are like, you don't want Birdie, you don't want somebody else, but like Jimmy, it's stagnant. It's not going to get better. And personally, I think it's kind of crazy to kind of expect the same thing to come out there and get you different results. Like that's kind of like the definition of insanity to me.
Yeah, well, and then D'Amico won't be here as well. So it's going to be, the defense is going to be, it's still going to be really good. There's an outside chance. Now keep an eye on this.
Mm-hmm.
That Robert Saleh doesn't make it past this year with the Jets. And if that happens,
I would hate that more than anything. And it's solely because I love Robert Saleh. I love the energy he has. And like I laughed my ass off when they posted that picture of him when they beat the Jets and he karate chopped the guy's arm off him because like they have another I feel bad for this person who's like assigned to keep Robert Saleh off the field. Mm-hmm. And he has another body man and he literally karate chops the guy's arm off him twice to get to his players because that's just like how high energy he is.
So intense, yeah.
But I live in Jersey, so I also have to listen to the bad of him, and he's like keeping receipts, and he's getting really testy with like all the reporters, and like he doesn't like being questioned, and it's just like I really don't want that energy back, and I hated that soft zone defense. I hated it. Just like I hated it beyond your comprehension. Like you give 7-8 yards, and like we get you're not getting the first down, but then they're still marching down the field. It's just like that soft zone of his, like it drove me nuts.
I feel what you're saying, but then the flip side of that is how much of that was the personnel, right? You got to remember who was here. So when he was here,
I remember Spoon and Sherman, and they weren't great man guys, and like yeah, I know. It's just they're doing the same thing in there, and like you have like DJ Reed coming at him in the press now, and you have to hear like Craig Carton of all disgusting human beings saying, "Oh, my Jets this and my Jets this," and it's just I hate Craig Carton, and this is what I have to live with.
I definitely feel it. Well, hey, tomorrow night. It sucks because we don't get to do the games anymore. I don't know if you saw, but we don't get to watch the games anymore on playback. They lost their deal with the NFL. We're trying to work out a deal with the NFL again. So I can't do the games live anymore, but I will be back.
So is that reason why Brad wasn't doing the Lions game today?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So yeah, playback.
I was driving myself crazy trying to watch it. I'm like, fuck, there's another close Detroit game, and even Hutchinson has to go down, and they lost another receiver. And I'm like, I'm driving myself crazy trying to watch them again this week.
Yeah, it was a rough game for the Lions as well. But yeah, so we won't be doing playback, at least for the near future. That being said, we'll be back tomorrow for the post game. Melissa, thank you for calling in as always. I know it's
Thank
tough
you
to
for
watch the
having these
Niners right now,
shows.
but we should be good. We should be good. All right.
Thank you for always being you.
Absolutely. Hey,
you guys
thank you.
are godsend, and I hope to God there's more Lion Niner shows on this channel because they are something special when it's you and Rad together.
Yeah, it's hard like during the season, right? Because we're both trying to do our own thing, and so yeah, it's a lot. So I appreciate it though. Thank you for the support as always.
And thank you for answering my questions because not a lot of people can like just sit back and like think about it logically and not have their biases and emotions and everything else involved. So that's what makes you and Steph really special.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Melissa. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
She's always so supportive. I love Melissa. She's since the beginning, first channel, second channel, she's always showing love. All right. So, geez, already, man, you just missed the beginning of the show because you were taking a dump. Now you got to take another dump, dude. You got IBS. I figured it out. Great JM has IBS. That's what it is. Listen, right now I don't have any callers lined up. I know the game is starting or about to start. So I'll get into just a couple things that I wanted to talk about. Another caller hops on, great. If not, no big deal. We'll end it early, but there are some reasons for optimism, right? And that's the title of the show. Now, I know it was a call-in show. I made everybody give one thing that they're optimistic about, but I think there's a lot of things that we can talk about when it comes to optimism with the San Francisco 49ers. And I'm going to run through the list real quick. So, number one, if the 49ers win tomorrow, believe it or not, as bad as it's been, a loss to Chicago, a loss to Denver, they should be 3-0. Let's just be real. They should be 3-0 right now. That being said, if the 49ers win tomorrow, they are first in the division. And their 2 wins are division wins. So they're out in front by a good amount. Okay. The other thing is this for tomorrow's game, Kinlaw and Armstead both might play. So Armstead has plantar fasciitis, can be very painful. I've dealt with that myself. Usually, though, believe it or not, so plantar fasciitis is the large tendon in your foot connects to your heel, and you get a lot of pain from it. And when you're a big guy like Armstead, it certainly can make you not play football. The problem with it is that it's something that can linger for a long time, and there's really not surgery or anything for it. A lot of times it's rest and massages and all sorts of things. But a lot of the time, if you've got a doctor, and I've got to imagine the 49ers have some of the best doctors you can get, if you've got a doctor that knows what he's doing, he actually will identify that it's either in your Achilles or it's in your calf. And if that is the case, they've been able to identify it, then they can actually resolve this issue pretty quickly with Armstead. So, sounds like he's questionable. They've given him a couple weeks of rest. Hopefully, he's able to play. I would say right now he's more important than Kinlaw. I would rather, if I'm choosing one, I'm choosing Armstead to play. But Kinlaw had his knee flare up again. You guys know where I stand on that. Last year, very unpopular opinion, but I said that I believe Kinlaw has some arthritis in his knee. He said he didn't. There were some other issues, but the fact that it's giving him issues again is not making me back off that stance. That being said, with arthritis, that can also be managed to a certain extent. If that is the case, I would expect that Kinlaw practices very little this year and plays in the games, right? Because what happens is you play, you go hard, you get your injections, and then it swells up on you for a few days. Swelling goes away, you're ready to go again. So that's kind of what I see happening with Kinlaw. Maybe I'm wrong on that. We don't know for sure what the knee is, but chances are both of these guys do play tomorrow, and that would be great. Also, the 49ers have Ward and Verrett coming back soon. They're both eligible to start practicing next week. Now, I assume that Ward comes back immediately. I don't know what's going to happen with Verrett. But right now, Verrett being your third corner, your first corner off the bench is an outside option. I don't know if it gets any better than that. I mean, you go find me a number 3 corner, and I'm not talking a nickel corner, a number 3 corner, first corner off the bench to play outside, better than Jason Verrett. I don't know if it exists. So if Verrett comes back soon, he's eligible to do so. That is another reason for optimism. Give you another reason to be optimistic. Trent Williams. So high ankle sprain. Obviously, missing out on this game seems to be a Ram thing. But at the same time, Trent Williams always misses a few games here or there, right? How quickly can he get back from a high ankle sprain? Well, we found out today Trent Williams does not need surgery. So that is extremely important to hear. And also, Trent Williams can be back as early as 4 weeks. Well, if you look at it, last week to this week, that's 1 week. Then you have the Panthers game. Then you have the Falcons game. That's 3 weeks. Then you have the Chiefs game, which is week 4. That's 4 weeks right there. They didn't put him on injured reserve for a reason. So chances are Trent Williams will be back for that Chiefs game. Okay. Talked about this one earlier, but another reason for optimism. 9-8, I believe in the NFC, gets it done for the San Francisco 49ers. That is enough to make the playoffs. And then last reason of optimism, before I get to these next 2 callers, is Trey's development. Big miss with him being out this year. Big miss by not starting him last year. I understand those things. But if you're looking across the league at the other quarterbacks that were drafted last year, none of them look amazing. Not a single one of them. And the consensus number 1 pick last year had looked pretty good. Trevor Lawrence, today he had 5 turnovers. He had 4 fumbles and an interception. So I know that we don't know what Trey is yet, but I also think we don't know who these other players, these other quarterbacks are yet as well, especially guys like Fields and Mac Jones, who were guys that the 49ers actually could have taken ahead of Trey. We don't necessarily know what they are either. So those are my reasons right now to be optimistic. I was going to get to Dr. Jasper, but he just dropped out. So I'm going to get to TN Niner here. Hold on a second. What's up, man? How are you?
What's up, Jesse? How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. What's the word?
Man, hey, staying optimistic like you, man. I'm trying to stay positive, man. I'm liking how you keeping the positivity, man, and saying something positive about the Niners, man. One thing about it, this is probably the best defense that we've had in the Shanahan regime.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, because, I mean, man, we're not only loaded on the line, but, man, the back end of the defense. And then, of course, you got Fred Warner quarterback in the defense. I mean, man, we are loaded on defense. It's just, man, can Jimmy and Kyle get on one accord, man? I mean, that's a big deal, because we've looked at it, man, this past week, not only just tapping in with you, but tapping in with Grant as well and tapping in with Croc as well. Like, man, is it Shanahan, or like is it Jimmy G? And it's like, man, Jimmy G's still Jimmy G. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And like looking at how, like, they said that Mike McDaniels was the play designer and like Shanahan was the play caller.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like what the caller said earlier. Like, man, you almost feel like Shanahan needs somebody in front of him to be like, whoa, slow down. Let's save that for later, and let's just go with this, because, like, oftentimes in football, man, just because they know what you're gonna do doesn't mean they can stop you. And it's like sometimes with Shanahan, he's like, oh man, they know that I'm gonna go this direction. Yeah, bro, but they can't stop it. So why go away from it?
Yeah.
Like, if you're killing them with the run game, don't slow down until you see something. Unfortunately, especially don't put the ball in Jimmy's hands to like really be able to turn the game over, turn the tide, man. Like, and I know it's like a Shanahan thing for him not to have confidence in like rookies, apparently, because you look at what Ayuk, but I mean, you look at Ayuk with Jimmy, and Ayuk doesn't really fit the way that Jimmy plays QB. And
I agree.
that goes back to, man, it makes you wonder, like, how the Broncos played them defensively. Do you expect the Rams to come out like that on defense, or what do
I
you
think it's
expect
going
them
to be
to do?
similar. I mean, their defensive coordinator just came from the Rams, right?
Exactly.
And let's not forget that the Rams, this is what worries me, right? Because everybody keeps talking about, well, listen, the 49ers won X amount of games in a row before they didn't against the Rams. But all it takes is one.
That's
You
it.
figure it out. I don't know where the 49ers are at. Like, have the tables now turned and the Rams have the 49ers number? I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow.
That's a really good point. And not only that, but man, Kyle, the first time that you see, like, for instance, like how we were talking about the Debo thing is just not working. Man, let's dial into a little bit of creativity, man. Like, let's not just line him up to run. Like, let's get him in the flat. Like, maybe he can come out of the backfield and you get him in the flat and he's in the open space and he's at the second level. Now let's see what he does. Let's not just make it so he's, oh, okay, man, they got Debo in the backfield, they're running the ball. No, man, do something different. Be a little bit more creative. Do something. And you look, remember the last time we called Debo on the run and he ended up throwing the TD pass to Juwan Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something like that, but man, maybe not make it as predictable. Oh man, they got Debo. Here comes the handoff. That's the thing, and I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, because of course we know we're not getting Wentz back, but that's the thing, man, that I wanted to see him do with Wentz. Like, dude, it could be so versatile. It doesn't have to be like the regular man. Like, just because you put Debo in the backfield, don't even go to him.
Right.
Roll out, okay, and get Danny Gray where now they're trying to come up. Now you got Danny Gray at the back of the play. Maybe it's single coverage. Maybe you've got Ayuk streaking. Like, that was the thing that killed me even in the Chicago game. They kept running crossing routes, and Ayuk was almost open every time. It's like people lose him in coverage.
They
But
do.
you know what, Jimmy, he's not going to make that throw. Versus Trey, that's like a better throw for him to make. You know what I mean? Catch him going down the sidelines or coming across the field, and man, I mean, like, Ayuk really loses people. So man, not to be negative, but to see the way that Kyle, like, used Trey when you could have been much more versatile, and like you could have got Trey in like much better positions. Hopefully next year we're not dealing with this and the same thing about him running them in between tackles. And hopefully, man, we can keep our especially defensive core together, man. But hey, I'm not gonna hold you
I
too
feel
long.
it.
I know you got to get more callers. Hey Jesse, I appreciate what you do, man, and I love your content. Keep it up, bro.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. That means the world to me. You have a good one, okay?
You too, man.
All right, man. Thought he brought up a lot of really good points. One of the things that the Rams do that's really interesting is they play Jalen Ramsey in a star role. And the reason this is so familiar to me is because I broke down Jalen Petrie in the offseason as a potential pick for the 49ers at safety. And what you saw was he actually didn't play single high or two high safety very often. I mean, we're talking something like 13 snaps all season, right? For a safety, that's kind of crazy to think about, but he played the star role at Baylor. And so I did a lot of research on the star role. And basically it's a hybrid safety linebacker corner position. You're asked to do almost everything. And that's what they're doing with Ramsey right now. So with that, I think one thing bad about that for the 49ers is that Debo in the backfield probably isn't going to get off the way that he normally would versus a linebacker if you throw him out in the passing game, because I think Ramsey is going to be that guy playing that role that is basically set up to hold Debo in place. The flip side of that, though, is if you use Debo as a decoy and you are occupying Ramsey, you've got a secondary that's not the best outside of Ramsey, and they're depleted with some injuries. That opens things up for somebody like George Kittle, Juszczyk, Jennings, Ayuk, right? So if the 49ers have a really good game plan here to force the Rams to continue to use Ramsey in this star role to hold Debo down, that opens up so much of this game for the rest of those players. So I'm curious to see the chess game that goes back and forth with Ramsey playing that star role, with Debo being in the backfield. I'm curious to see how that plays out. Dr. Jass, what's up, man? I'm going to bring you on here. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, man, I'm doing well. How are you doing tonight or today?
I'm doing good. You were going. Was that you on fire in the comment section?
I'm always on fire.
You are on one tonight, man. What's up?
I've deleted all my social media, so YouTube is the way I get my 49ers content and just like get to speak out about it. But I love your show, man. I'm really loving talking about sports and the Niners especially. But what do you think about playing Lenoir versus Womack? I have my own opinions about it, but I just wanted to see what you thought about it.
Yeah, I think, and another caller brought it up slightly, but yeah. I think the reason for it is I think Lenoir is better with his run fits. Shanahan talked today with what's his name? Who's the announcer for the 49ers? I'm drawing a blank. I said his name earlier. Now I'm forgetting. Anyways, he was talking with him in his weekly interview, and he talked a lot about the run fits from the nickel position. Now, he didn't talk specifically Lenoir or Womack, but he talked a lot about that, and that kind of tipped me off to, all right, that's why Womack probably wasn't playing and Lenoir was able to earn that starting spot, is because he's better in run defense right now than Womack is. So the flip side of that, though, is Womack, I think, would be better this week to be on Cup because he's longer, he's faster. I just think he's a more athletic player. So I'm curious to see how this whole thing plays out. What are your thoughts on it?
I mean, I want to see what Lenoir can do because he's been with our defense for a little bit longer. I want to see what we got, right? Yeah. But I do think that Womack is what you said, is longer, is a little bit more athletic, is a little more aggressive, is what we need, especially to see what we have against Cooper Kupp and to see what we got against McVay. My friends, my childhood friends, they have loved the Rams since forever, and I'm not going to hear the end of it. So I really, really hope that we can win against the Rams to this next game, especially because I'm not going to hear the end of it at all. They have my nieces and my nephews. They have them converting to Rams fans or trying at least. So we definitely need to win this game, man. But I don't think the defense is really the main concern here. It's really going to be about what Jimmy is able to do and what Kyle is able to scheme up against McVay. This is a really, really important game against our division rivals and see what we really have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just gonna let you in on a secret. Yeah, Greg Papa, that's who I was talking about earlier. Thank you, Emiliano. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. Your Rams friends are still not gonna talk trash because it doesn't matter. You can say we've won the last 8 in the regular season or whatever it is, and they're gonna say, yeah, but we won when it's most important. Come talk to us when you beat us in the playoffs. So you know how that's gonna go.
Yeah, man, definitely. I really want Kyle to be able to scheme up a little bit more vertical this game. We have to try to see what we got because we got 2 options. We either got Ray or we got Danny Gray, right? Try to see what we got. Who is going to work? Because when Trey Lance comes back, we have to figure out who is our receiver or who is our offensive piece that is able to extend, to stretch that offense downfield, right? To open that up a little bit to see what we got going left and right, horizontal, which is the comment that I saw you making with Vish's, I guess, premiere video.
Yeah.
We want to see what we can do horizontally, right? To be able to do some plays horizontally, we have to see what we got over the top. Is it Ray Ray? Is it Danny Gray? To extend that further to see what we can extend left and right.
Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with that. And it doesn't have to be necessarily executed. I think just taking the shot here or there to keep defenses honest. And if you hit 1 of 5 or 1 of 6, then you're good to go. I think the 49ers have two problems at hand when it comes to going vertically, though.
Mm-hmm.
Is one, I think the offensive line is a little bit iffy, right? So how much time are you going to get?
Yeah.
And then Jimmy, he's the trigger puller. So if he doesn't have the cannon to make that throw or the confidence, okay, throwing deep is not an arm strength issue, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy can throw the ball deep enough to make the play. He just has a true mental block, it feels like, to where he's just like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not throwing downfield with any regularity because I don't trust myself for whatever reason. And so that's kind of the situation we have at hand when it comes to taking those shots downfield, in my opinion.
Jesse, do you think that it's an issue of Jimmy not trusting himself, or is it because he's quote unquote following the script that Kyle is prescribing him?
I go back and forth on this. I really do, because I do think that Kyle is a control freak, right? Like I think that's pretty clear. We know what Kyle is. That being said,
Yeah,
those shot plays are in the offense, and they have been for a long time. Trey was hitting those shot plays, and Jimmy doesn't attempt those shot plays. So I don't know if maybe he looks at Jimmy and says, hey, I don't trust you to make those plays, so don't do it. That's a possibility. But if he's just running the offense to run the offense and is allowing the quarterback to be that decision maker on whether he throws deep or not, Trey Lance was taking those shot plays, and Jimmy just won't do it for whatever reason.
All right, Jesse, last thing I'm going to say, because I know you got to get to other people, but
Yeah.
Is this prescription just a thing for Jimmy internally, or is it Jimmy that's, creating this issue for himself, and he's not playing to his full potential, being like, hey, yo, I'm going to be a gunslinger. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to throw the ball. I'm going to do whatever I can. This may or may not be my last year. Or is it the power? Because I really do think that it's Kyle's issue here. I do think that it's Kyle being a control freak where he's not willing to give any sort of powers to other people. I don't know why that is, and I don't want to get into that because I'm not Kyle. I don't know what it is about Kyle that's this is a disadvantage to him, why he's not allowing other people to step up and take those roles, and for him to be like, hey, you know what, I'm a really, really good game planner. I'm so smart and genius. I'm a great offensive coordinator per se. Let me do that bit, and let me have some other people here to design plays for me or to help me out here and to maximize my own potential. Like, what is it? What's really causing this stunt to this growth for the Niners here?
Yeah. And maybe it's both, right? Like maybe both things can be true. Maybe Jimmy hasn't trusted himself, deservedly so. Let's say it's deservedly so because he had the injury, right? And he's trying to protect himself. And remember the brace? That was a big thing for a while. Like, is he going to wear the brace? Is he not going to wear the brace? Does he have confidence in the knee? And then finally he ditched it, right? So maybe it just took a while for him to get there. And then while this is going on, Kyle's like, okay, well, this is not the player that we had in 2017. I don't trust him as much. And so as Jimmy's trying to catch up and is now maybe ready to make those plays, Kyle's still like, no, we're good here. Right. And so I think it could be both. I really do. I also think that Jimmy could also be a shot fighter in that sense, where one thing that happens with fighters as they age, believe it or not, it's not that their skills diminish drastically. It's that they turn gun shy. They just stop throwing punches for whatever reason. They turn into a stationary target and they don't throw punches. Why, I don't know. But Jimmy could be that as well. Is, hey, he wants to protect himself. He's worried about X, Y, and Z. And so he's almost shot as a fighter, so to speak, and he's just not willing to take those shots because it's just not something he's comfortable with. I don't know, man. There's so many things that it could be. We'll see. We're going to get our answer because here's what's going to happen. Jimmy's eventually not going to be on the 49ers. He will play somewhere else. And when he does, what does that look like? I'm curious to see. If Jimmy flourishes somewhere else and all of a sudden looks like a completely different player, man, Kyle, dude, like that's 100% on you. And now things become really interesting as 49er fans because the same thing was said about Trey is the same thing that's said about Jimmy. Kyle's an offensive genius. He's going to put these guys in the best position to be their best self. So if they are not, and they go somewhere else and they are their best selves, what does that say about Kyle? That's an interesting point.
It's going to be interesting for sure, man. Thank you so much, Jesse, for letting me on the show, man. I really, really appreciate it. This has been so awesome. Go Niners.
Absolutely. Hey, you call in anytime, Doc. I appreciate the call. I appreciate the love, man, and go off in the chat. Have fun.
Thank you.
Later. I want to say this. I forgot to address this comment before I took Doc's call. I'm going to go Jeremy and then Tommy. But Courtney says, it was also raining pretty bad today in Philly. And this is when I was talking about Lawrence having 5 turnovers, right? Being the first quarterback in the 2000s, since 2000, or maybe even earlier. I don't know when the last time it happened, but certainly not in this time frame, to have 4 lost fumbles in a game. I don't necessarily hold that against him, right? Because it is raining. He's still young. He's developing. But what if that was Trey Lance? Because Trey Lance in start 3 had 1 turnover and 1 pretty bad missed throw in very similar weather, possibly worse weather. He didn't get that grace. So do we have to give that grace to Lawrence, who has what he's making like his 19th start, something like that? I don't know. I think we should, because I think all players deserve 3 years to fully develop. But there's a big chunk of this fan base that was not willing to give that grace to Trey Lance. We saw Jimmy when it started to rain, how good it didn't look, how bad it got. And then we saw it today with Trevor Lawrence, right? And we also saw it a little bit with Hurts. Hurts didn't look near as good as he had been looking. Elements do matter, right? And I think development matters. I just want to say, whatever your stance was, Courtney, and anybody in the chat, however you treated Trey with that situation, whether it's, hey, I'm going to give him grace or I'm going to hold his feet to the fire, you have to do the same thing with Trevor Lawrence today. So whatever your stance was, keep that same energy, because again, if that was Trey Lance in start 3, if he had 5 turnovers, I don't even want to know what the timeline would have looked like. So, all right, Jeremy, I'm coming to you. What's up, brother? How are you? Jeremy going once. Jeremy going twice. Oh, all right. Well, we'll bring in Tommy. All right, Tommy, you ready?
I was mixed. What's up, man?
What's up, brother? How are you? You thought you had 5 minutes, I know, but Jeremy just didn't even take his shot at it.
Oh, well. It is what it is.
What's up, brother? How you been?
Not bad. Just really nervous about tomorrow. I don't know why the games affect me like this.
Your hands get all clammy, get all that. I feel it, dude.
It's just that butterflies in the stomach for no reason. It's just because it's the Rams, and we've been sucking offensively. So
the Rams have been, I'll tell you what, though, the Rams offensively have not looked good. Wow. And the 49ers have a similar problem with the offensive line, but the Rams offensive line is very makeshift at best right now. So we might get a 11-10 type of game again. Hopefully it goes the Niners way this time.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to put Brunskill at center. He's going to play. I just wonder where he's going to go. Or is he going to be a backup or what? Because Brendel is just terrible, man.
Yeah, I don't want to say he's terrible, but of the 3 up front, he's certainly made the most mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that's pretty clear. I think Banks has looked pretty decent. I think Burford's looked pretty decent. I think Brendel at times has looked decent, but he's also had some pretty egregious errors. So I feel it. Yeah, I definitely do feel it. I don't think he starts tomorrow. I don't think his first action back, he starts. So
Yeah, as bad as the O-line is, the Lambs, their offensive line is dreadful. I mean, they're shifting guys around that don't even play the position they're in right now. And
no, you're right about that. You know what I just realized too as we were going through the names? All 4 of them have B names. That's a little interesting, right? You got
okay.
Brunskill, Burford, Banks, Rindell. I don't know why that never hit me till just now, but that's interesting. Not that it means anything. It literally means nothing. It's just an observation that finally hit me.
Yeah, that is kind of weird. I don't know. Having Trent out is going to be a major blow, but McKivitz did well the last game of the season in 2021. So
he did. He definitely did. He's a veteran in this league. Shanahan talked about him today as well when he had his interview with Papa. He talked about how cutting him and bringing him back probably the best thing in the world for him. Maybe gave him that extra motivation. Not that he didn't have it. He's always been a hard worker, as Kyle Shanahan says. But sometimes, like knowing that your time in the league could be coming to an end, a lot of times will get you that extra motivation. So, yeah, maybe that's a good thing for him as well.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have another option. Jalen Moore is terrible on the outside.
Oh my God, he's awful.
So bad. He's a turnstile out there. It's bad.
So what are they going to do with him? He's going to be a backup or something? Because he was supposed to be like what, left guard or right guard or something?
Yeah, that's it. Is I think his natural position in the NFL is guard, or at least the vision that Shanahan had for Moore was to play guard, but he's just never had the opportunity. It's always been playing tackle, right?
Yeah, he did well in that Colts game.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and that's he had the one good performance. We got kind of excited, and then it was just all downhill from there. Down there.
Yeah,
it's not looking good for old Moore. So we'll see.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do with Debo, because we need to get those jet sweeps going again. I was talking to other people about, it's too bad Danny Gray's injured. They could get him on the jet sweeps because we're lacking that speed on the edges.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I agree. I agree. I think that's a part of the offense that really has kind of disappeared a little bit.
Yeah.
I would like to get Debo in motion, get him those head starts, get him the ball, let him make a play out in space horizontally versus running him straight into the. I don't want to see him run into Aaron Donald this week. Can we just avoid that?
Yeah,
please.
exactly.
That would be ideal.
Yeah, he's the only guy. He worries me now since he's going to be in the interior. So, just worried about the center. So I guess they're going to line him up all over the place.
They will. They will a little bit.
He's usually on the right. I always see him on the right.
They're going to do whatever it takes to get him. I mean, it's just like with Bosa, right? Like naturally he lines up over the left tackle, but over the last couple, I would say last year, really, you started to see it where they're starting to move him around and they're just trying to find matchups for Bosa. They're going to do the same thing with Donald. Inside, outside, left, right. It's not going to matter. If they like something and they think they can expose it, they will do just that. Yep.
Who do you think's better at scheming around? McVay's better scheming around Bosa, or Kyle's better around Donald?
I feel like we don't know the answer yet on Bosa, but on Aaron Donald really has been stifled by the 49ers time and time again. He almost is a no-show in a lot of these games. Now, he did his thing in the NFC Championship when it mattered most, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, he really has been stifled by the 49ers. And, they say it's Brunskill and, the whole joke there. But realistically, that's Shanahan doing a really good job of going away from him and figuring out ways to put him in awkward, compromising positions that maybe he's not used to being in. I think Shanahan has proven that he can take Donald completely out of the game multiple times. We haven't seen that yet with Bosa and McVay. So I'm curious to see how it plays out tomorrow. I really am.
Yeah, I'm worried about both offensive lines. I mean, I don't care about the Rams offensive line, but I know both of them are going to probably struggle a little bit.
For sure, yeah. And and that's what I'm saying. It really could be a super low scoring game again. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was calling 14-10.
I think that's a good, That might be it. And you're right. 14-10. 14-10 Rams or 14-10 Niners?
I don't even know. I don't even want to say.
Just 14-10. All right. I
Yeah.
like it. You'll be right either way if it's 14-10. I
Yeah.
love it.
I mean,
Nice, dude.
yeah.
You've been getting some live gigs with your guitar playing or what?
It's been a little slow. I mean, I had one like a week ago, so it's starting to slow down a little bit, but it's gonna pick up.
I feel it. Lamel wants you to play Hotel
And
California.
this is I played that reggae style once.
Oh, did
That was
you?
funny, yeah.
That's dope. I like it. That's got to be an interesting pairing for sure. I like it, brother. All right, bro. Hey, thanks for calling in. Thanks for keeping the chat in line.
Oh, for
I know
sure.
you're one of my wrenched up guys, so I appreciate you, Tommy.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
shoot, we'll talk after the game. We'll probably do some call-ins there too, so feel free.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna watch the game because I got to work overtime. But
feel it.
hopefully I could listen on the radio or something. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah, get some sort of something in. Yeah, and listen, if you're working, maybe it's best that for your blood pressure that you don't listen.
I know, but maybe it's good luck if I don't watch. Sometimes I think that.
There we go. Yeah, it could be. Listen, that's why I picked the Rams to win because I've been wrong on every Rams 49ers pick for the last 2 years. So it's the reverse jinx, man.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Exactly.
All right, brother. You have a good one.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right, later. Yeah, Jeremy's still MIA. All right. Well, listen, we got Sunday Night Football on. I appreciate all of you for tapping in. We will be back live for a post-game instant reaction, so tap in there. Appreciate all the love. Appreciate the callers for carrying the show as always. Go Niners. We'll see what happens. And since I won't be able to do playback tomorrow to have the game, probably find me on Twitter talking a lot of trash. So I also think I'm going to wear my Jimmy G socks tomorrow. I'm wearing the Jimmy G socks. I feel like that's going to be good luck. I got Jimmy G socks. I'm going to rock those tomorrow. I'll post a picture on Twitter for that as well. Thank you all so much. Go Chiefs. We're rooting for the Chiefs. No NFC teams to win. Go Chiefs tonight. Peace.